Hi everyone, I'm Ben, and this is the Board Game Blueprint. This week, we're going to continue off of our mini-series from last week about the idea that we generated, Snot Rocket, and see where the concept has gone since we've had a full week to think a little bit more on the idea. So let's jump on over to the table next door and see what we have in store. And we have returned to our setup from last episode, and basically I think what I'm going to do is change something around based on some of the ideas that have been bobbing in my head a little bit here. So I'm just going to shift slightly. All right, and essentially where we left off was that spaceships piloted by astronauts will be visiting certain maybe derelicts, certain obstacles and resources that are going to be coming towards us, maybe down the nose. And that got me thinking, well, it could be really cool if maybe these rows of cards were separated thusly, and players had to decide which column to actually pilot or steer their rocket ships into. And that got me thinking a little bit more even about if we could change the layout to look a little bit more like a nose. So here's my proposed new layout, is that we're actually going to turn these cards landscape, and we're going to have choices for the players as we kind of work our way up to the tip of the nose, so to speak. So now all of a sudden there's a lot more table presence, whoops, that we're gonna be maybe dealing with here. And that could be changed. Oh, how about this? If we consolidate a little bit like that, okay? And we'll say that this goes here, and these jokers we're just going to kind of ignore for the time being. And if we can have a sort of triangular pattern, a little bit difficult to read on this blank table, but we have a choice for the players as they kind of fit, whoops, here we go, into these pathways, one of the two planets to mine from, perhaps, and then regarding a die roll, getting to decide how many of the resource they will claim. So we can use those rocket ship dice, and now all of a sudden they have a function again. These could then be tracked on a player board, different resources, and we can even just kind of, for now, place some cubes on here to represent, okay, we've actually collected 3 of these 8 resources. But again, on the player board, or maybe on these components specifically, a single cube would work across a track, or using a clip of some kind to help record that. Now, I realized that my initial idea was inspired partly by some friends of mine's sci-fi rocket ship themed games, and one of their suggestions was based on the nasal aspect of Snot Rocket, having a push your luck element so that either the players were sneezed out or a nosebleed would happen instead. So that's kind of, yeah, where this resource tracking is also going to come into play. Mayhaps a player can only hold up to 6 resources of any given kind at a time on a single trip or a single visit, maybe. And I kind of like the idea too, to borrow a little bit from Tokaido, that the players who are in the back will get the next turn. So as you move forward, you're kind of claiming these locations because maybe you are after a specific resource. We might have to implement some victory point or objective cards for the players to also have in order to convert them into those victory points that we are vying for as the end game goal. But yeah, let me just kind of move these back down. I like the idea that, yes, whoever is kind of in the back will get the next nearest turn. So maybe jumping from here, this astronaut will go up the nose and then back down. Maybe we'll actually flip the card. Guess can't really tell with the poker card, but flip it back down to go here. And if somebody else was in line at the end there, let's see if I can pull up another face card to illustrate further. Here we go. That they could kind of clean up whatever it is that the previous player had taken already, but maybe that push your luck element also includes if you mine over the capacity of what a planet can generate, it will explode a little bit, and that's just no good. In the standard poker deck, there's also, well, 3 face cards. You have their king, queen, and jack. So maybe that's how many rounds there are in this game, is that you get to shoot your astronaut one of each per round, essentially. And perhaps they also have different powers as well. And that allows for some replayability, maybe some strategies, so some dice mitigation perhaps, or an extra bonus when it comes to collecting resources. So those are kind of basically the latest and greatest edits, as it were, in the development process for me that I'm looking to explore here. And though it's not quite totally perfect, at this point in the process is where I would go ahead and try to bring things a little bit more to life and move some pieces around again to get a better feel for what we're going for, to kind of solidify some concepts, make them concrete, and then put them in front of a friend or two. Regardless, or I should say before that, I myself like to create some sample cards here, and those we'll just kind of maybe go ahead and zoom to now on the computer. And so I have this really bad habit of not only going back over what I had said before about creating or sticking to a 54 card design necessarily, but also jumping into the visuals kind of right away. I am a very visual person, and so getting to explore a little bit of the aesthetics of a game really excites me and gets me more invested, I think, into the project, though it is a bit more of a time sink. So I can't necessarily recommend it to everyone to add this step so early in the process, but again, for me, it's what kind of keeps the passion and the fire alight. So that's just kind of, again, how it goes in my book, and you can feel free to totally slough that or not. I am sure many more professional designers would advise against doing so, just because there is maybe much more time to figure out the gameplay aspect. But as we're going to see here, I leave a few areas specifically blank because there's a cool little prototyping hack that you can do with transparent sleeves, and I'll go ahead and show that either in this video, probably I think we'll get to it in the next one after I order these from the Game Crafter. So as we covered in the analog section of the video, we're going to need new extras on these regular standard poker cards. Namely, I think, is going to be a resource track about how many are remaining on the planet after being mined by the astronauts, by the players, and then, well, of course, we'll need to just add a few, components and stuff as well. But for the print version, for these cards themselves, I think, we can go ahead and add a little bit of that here. And, always good is a few different powers, again, as we covered for those face cards. So I think maybe I can leave that section blank, although I'll have to type up a list of what I'd like to test, again, moving forward to see what feels right and balanced for the desired gameplay. I believe in a previous video we even talked about cards and portraiture. Whether they are landscape or portrait can also help distinguish or set different components of the same type. This is definitely inspired by a game, Star Realms, Hero Realms, and others too, but that's the one that comes to mind firstly for me. And I think it's a really great call to give or indicate physically that things have certain purposes and whatnot. So we'll just explore some concepts here and probably, put way too much time into this side of it, but exploring again that creative side is just too much fun for me to turn away. And basically, from here we'll just kind of order things from the Game Crafter and hopefully see where it can take us. And as we've seen, a lot can happen within 7 or so days, and we'll see if maybe it'll continue to push forward even more in the upcoming ones. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and click that bell icon so that you can stay notified about when the next video goes up. As always, I'm Ben. This has been another episode of the Board Game Blueprint, and together, let's build something great.